Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest and most rewarding journeys you'll take as a parent, your child learning to read. We're going to explore how you can build an incredibly strong foundation for literacy, right from the very first babbles, all the way through the school years. And it's all based on clear, research-backed strategies. Okay, let's dive right in. So many parents ask this exact question. We're all looking for that secret program, that magic bullet, right? Well, I've got some great news for you. There isn't one. The real answer is way simpler, way more powerful, and it's something you can literally start doing right now. It all comes down to just 3 core habits. And here they are. Talk, read, and play with sounds. That's it. Seriously. These 3 simple and completely free habits work together to build a super strong foundation for reading. So now, let's get into the science of why this simple recipe works so incredibly well. To really get how these habits work their magic, we need to look at a kind of blueprint for the reading brain. Here's something that might surprise you. Unlike talking, our brains aren't naturally wired to read. It's a skill that has to be built piece by piece. And luckily, there's a brilliant model that helps us see exactly how all those pieces are supposed to fit together. This right here is Scarborough's reading rope. It is a fantastic way to visualize this whole process. So I want you to think of skilled reading not as just one thing, but as a bunch of smaller strands that get woven together over time. Now, for that rope to be strong enough to actually support a reader, 2 big bundles of these strands have to be developed, and then they have to be twisted together nice and tight. We're about to look at what's in those 2 bundles. Okay, this is absolutely crucial. On the left side, you've got language comprehension. Basically, this is all about understanding the meaning of language. We build this from the moment a child is born, through talking, hearing stories, and just learning about the world. Now, you've got word recognition. This is the skill of actually looking at the printed words on a page and decoding them. This part has to be taught step by step. See, a child can struggle with reading for 2 totally different reasons. Either they can't understand the story, or they just can't read the words. Both sides of this rope have to be strong. So let's follow this journey and see how that rope gets built, starting right at the beginning, from birth to age 5. This is the absolute critical window for building up that entire language comprehension side of the rope. And what's so amazing is that you are building a reader long before they can even recognize the letter A. From birth, it's all about those back and forth interactions. We call it serve and return. Then, between ages 1 and 3, simple nursery rhymes are doing some incredibly heavy lifting. They're actually training your child's brain to hear all the individual sounds in our language. And then, from 3 to 5, we move into something called dialogic reading. All that really means is turning story time into a conversation. Instead of just reading at them, you start asking questions like, "Whoa, what do you think is going to happen next?" Or, "Why do you think the bear is so sad?" It turns reading from passive listening into an active experience, and that's what builds vocabulary and those critical thinking skills. Now, what's really fascinating about this serve and return stuff is that it's not just about bonding. It is literally building the brain's architecture for reading. When your baby coos, and you coo right back, you're laying down the neural groundwork that all their future language and literacy skills will be built on top of. You are having their very first conversation. How cool is that? Okay, let's fast forward a bit to the school years. So we've got a strong language comprehension bundle going. Now it's time to start weaving in that second part of the rope, word recognition. This happens with real formal instruction in school. But here's the thing. All that amazing work you did in those early years, that's what makes this new instruction actually stick. And here's a huge piece of advice for this stage. Whatever you do, please don't stop reading aloud to your kids, even when they can read all by themselves. Why? Well, because when you read a book to your child that's a little above their own reading level, you're giving them a gift. You're giving them access to complex sentences, sophisticated ideas, and rich vocabulary that they can understand when they hear it, but just can't read on their own yet. This is how you keep powerfully strengthening that language comprehension rope. And as they start reading on their own, the sheer volume of that reading creates a staggering, compounding effect. I mean, just look at this chart. The difference between reading for 1 minute a day versus 20 minutes a day. It's not small. It is an astronomical gap. We're talking 8,000 words a year versus almost 2 million. This is a chasm that just gets wider every single day. And this number right here, it just brilliantly illustrates the power of a small, consistent habit. 1.8 million words. This is the engine that drives everything: vocabulary growth, background knowledge, and ultimately deep comprehension. 20 minutes a day can fundamentally change a child's entire academic future. It's a total game changer. This whole phenomenon leads directly to something in education we call the Matthew effect. In reading, it basically means the rich get richer. Good readers tend to enjoy it, so they read more, and guess what? They get even better. But for kids who struggle, reading is hard work, so they avoid it, and they fall further and further behind. This is exactly why spotting and jumping on challenges early is so incredibly urgent. A small gap in first grade doesn't just stay small. It can widen into a canyon over time if we don't do something about it. So, what can you do if you're worried your child might be on the wrong side of that widening gap? Well, that brings us to our final and really crucial piece of the puzzle: how to become a truly effective partner with your child's school. You know, the key to a great partnership is starting from a place of shared understanding, and that often begins with data. Now, schools collect a ton of it, but one of the most useful things for parents to know about is something called oral reading fluency, or ORF. Put simply, it's just a measure of how many words a child can read correctly in 1 minute. It's like a quick, reliable snapshot of their reading progress. Okay, this chart might look a little technical, but I promise it's very straightforward. This shows the national averages for oral reading fluency. So, for example, you can see right here that by the end of second grade, a student at the 50th percentile, which just means the national average, is reading about 117 words correctly per minute. If you can find out your child's score from their school, this chart gives you a really powerful, objective starting point to see exactly how they're doing compared to their peers. So here's how you turn that data into a really productive conversation. These 3 questions are your playbook. They're specific, they're collaborative, and they're all about looking forward. And that third question, if they are below benchmark, what can I do at home to support the work you're doing in class? That question is gold. You're positioning yourself as a key player on your child's team, not as an opponent. You're not there to diagnose, you're there to understand and help. And that is the most powerful stance you can possibly take. And that really brings us full circle, doesn't it? From those very first back and forth babbles with your baby, to reading bedtime stories to your third grader, to having a smart, data-informed chat with a teacher, your role in this whole journey is just incredibly powerful. Let's end with this fantastic quote from Harvard researcher Dr. Noni Lesso. Every conversation you have with your child is reading instruction. Just remember that. The journey to becoming a reader isn't really about flashcards or worksheets. It starts with connection, it's built with conversation, and it's powered by the simple magic of a good story. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.